Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'll be doing mainly commentary here, so feel free to leave me in the background while you guys do whatever you guys have to do. I am new to this, and the main reason I am doing this is because I do have a fear of kind of like talking in public. So I'm hoping doing this as a side or on the side is gonna kind of help improve with me stutter less when I'm talking and speak a little more fluently. Other than that, I really do like reading. So, um, what better than to do two things, one that I like and one that can help me out and kind of just put myself out there. So yeah, if you guys like enjoy commentary or enjoy hearing scary stories, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll try to be consistent on my posting. Thank you guys. The story comes from Anonia Prime on r/nosleep. My job gave me a list of rules to follow. The job is at an immense building in a forgotten corner of the world. Over the last century, the building has been used as a factory, an orphanage, a psychiatric ward, and even a prison. Each time, increasingly horrible things happened to the people in the building, and the landowner gave up trying to repurpose it. However, the area around the land developed rapidly, and the opportunity cost of leaving the land as is became too high. Thus, I was hired to evaluate and renovate the building. The first night after I set the job offer and signed the waiver, I walked in and grabbed a clipboard with a list of rules I must follow if I want to keep my life. You know how this goes. Rule 1. Nobody you are interacting with is a living life form. Rule 2. When anyone calls and asks for Fred, you must convince them that Fred is not here. You may tell them anything, but you must never hang up. You are safe once the caller hangs up. Rule 3. Remind the incensed man that the morgue is in the basement, but do not show him the way, no matter how much he insists. Rule 4. If you hear a music box start to play, you must locate and close the box before the song ends. Rule 5. If a window opened by itself, toss salt outside the window and wait until the hands release before closing it. Then move the wheelchair back to the original spot. Rule 6. When you see them, direct the twins to the experimentation room and tell them the doctor knows best. Smile back. Insert earplugs before the screaming starts. Rule 8. Never, ever speak or write the number of the missing rule. Rule 9. Every night at 9 p.m., mix rat poison with a bowl of dog food and place it out for Fluffy. If Fluffy finishes a whole bowl by 12 a.m., immediately vacate the premises. Rule 10. If you smell smoke, run up to the roof and hide behind the water reservoir tank until it starts to rain. Nowhere else is safe, and you do not talk to Martin. Rule 11. Do not look her in the eyes. Though my job was different, there had been contractors who had worked in this building because there were generators in the basement that needed to be monitored and maintained. The rules had been passed from one contractor to the next, but I was probably the only one who laughed after reading them. Yes, I laughed. Rules, after all, are made by people who know almost nothing, for people who know even less. Let's say you got the job instead of me. You pocket the sweet advance, and you take in the rules. Every time the phone rings, you rack your brain for the most convincing lies of where Fred could be. He's on leave. He's with the client. He's in Timbuktu with his mistress. And sometimes you even yell until the caller hangs up. But will you ask why that's supposed to protect you? I can tell. In the early 1930s, Fred was a sensation. He'd superheard an innovation that made the factory situated right here generate immense amounts of money and gave hundreds of women jobs. His products were simply divine, like they came from the next era. Everyone wanted at least one of his fancy watches with self-luminous paint. When women began falling dead with radiation poisoning, everyone also wanted answers. Must I remind you that Fred is no longer alive? Your callers are not amongst the living, and you're the one behind this desk now? As for why they're calling, it's because the weakest types of ghosts need directions and an invitation. Let me introduce myself properly. This time, I am here for a job. But my job is not to follow silly rules made by ignorant humans trying to treat symptoms of a supernatural infestation while surviving to pay the bills. My job is to cleanse the factory and exorcise all the ghosts so my boss can use this land again. Evaluate and renovate, as I said. It started with the easiest task, building a trap for any ghosts that wander in looking for Fred. It took almost half an hour to set up, but I knew any ghost that needed an invitation would be weak and easy to snare. After my setup, I created a new voicemail. Yes, Fred is here. Third room on the second floor. Please visit at your earliest convenience. Then, I took a suitcase, went down to an abandoned classroom, and spoke the forbidden word, 7. She emerged from behind some crates, dragging herself along the floor. Her legs were spread out in an unnatural angle behind her, like those of a dead amphibian. Her eyes were little black holes, and she was missing some of her fingers. Will you play with me? Her voice was soft, barely audible because of the black yarn pulled through her mouth. Her head, topped with a mess of tangled ginger, lolled side to side, and she slowly pulled herself forward towards me. I opened my suitcase. Will you play with me? She yelled at me, angry, in a way only a child could be. She was suddenly right next to me. With a sudden burst of strength, she reached for me. Will you play with me? I let her feel my hand. Her presence was clammy and wet, as if she'd taken her last breath in a pool. I'd love to, but I can't play with you, 7. I'm sorry. The black yarn, pulling her lips together, began to unravel as her skull stretched into a grin before her mouth deformed into something terrible. I added, he can, though. 7 pulled her hand back. Children, even dead ones, are curious creatures. They're easy to distract and trusting to the point where they appear gullible. She reached for my gift and gasped. Her little body radiated with joy as she ran her hands over the gift I bought her. Light returned to the little black holes that formed her eyes, and she giggled with happiness. I smiled as she read the names on the collar. She hugged her gift. I leaned down. Would you like to leave with Biscuit so he can play with you forever? Biscuit was a beloved pet whose dead body still radiated with spiritual warmth. His owner took him to be cremated, but could not resist handing him over when I offered to pass down words from her dead grandmother. In exchange, Seven nodded, her eyes brimming with tears, and her presence began to fade. You are so nice. Nobody has ever played with me. Nobody has been nice to me before. But this is not a tale of how I easily broke all the rules of the building and emerged unscathed. I knew, by the time I went down the same flight of stairs 20 times, the last spirit in the building was a powerful one. She was powerful enough to manipulate the world of the living without an invitation. Powerful enough to stay and haunt this ground for centuries. Powerful enough to kill and trap the hundreds here. For once in my life, I felt compelled to follow our rule. Rule 11, do not look her in the eyes. But I can't. I cannot look her in the eyes because my vision for dead things does not work the same way your eyesight does. Even though my eyelids were firmly screwed over my eyes, I was looking directly in her eyes. Cold washed over me, and I knew she was testing me. How easily could she manipulate my body to shiver? She couldn't. A spirit cannot take from an unwilling human because the rules of life are stronger than the rules of death. But a spirit can manipulate you to give that advantage up. The strongest spirits often know how to manipulate you until you thought that dying was the best choice you could ever make in your life. She murmured, your life is not yours to take, I declared. You are living on borrowed time, she whispered. I know what you did that summer. She whispered threats, an auditory invasion of shrieks and walls, nails dug into the side of my face as she spat out my darkest secrets and laughed at all my insecurities. She'd been here long before I was born. She'd taken many men and women who were far stronger than me. She reminded me that I'd caused the death of everyone I loved. She reminded me I was destined to suffer alone until I passed my curse onto a willing protege. Calmly, I told her, we know where your body is. The most powerful spirits usually derived their power from where their body had been buried. I cannot explain the rules, but if I moved her body or manipulated the environment of her body, she could find herself trapped in the torment forever. She could not take anything from me unless I gave permission, but I could feel her longing her existence, even now. Tormented her. She wanted to be freed, but she did not want to give up. Whatever happened in her life, she died with so much rage, sorrow, and regret that she was able to sustain her existence for centuries. She was a true source of all the horrible happenings of the building, starting when the land was merely a burial ground. I have an eternity, she said, because I had already entered her trap. She could keep me trapped in the never ending stairwell, while preventing me from manipulating her body. My mortal body will perish. Do you? I smiled. Are you sure about that? You see, I don't just waltz into haunted buildings because I could. I know dozens of ways to repel ghosts, to reach into the spirit world and tear them apart. I chanted one of the most powerful spells I know. The coldness reduced. Her presence became less overpowering. Then, one by one, my fingernails popped off. I silenced myself. Her presence sharpened again. A spirit typically cannot take form or harm an unwilling medium, but when I started my chant, I'd willingly establish a connection with her. In my decades of dancing with the supernatural, I'd never met a spirit strong enough to resist an exorcism and attack me at the same time. I've seen plenty of attacks on humans who unwittingly gave permission. There were endless ways you could invite the cursed energy in, but I was trained to resist. Glancing at my bloody fingers, I straightened my shoulder, took a seat on the floor, and said, "An eternity, you say? So, how was your day?" My antics caught her off guard. She had an eternity, yes, but we both knew time was of no value to her. I was the last hope of the landowner. If I could exercise his land, the land would simply be sealed off. I'd already sent away the hundreds of souls she'd accumulated over the centuries. Her eternity would become more damned than ever. Her presence stirred, as if she was settling down. We simply existed in the same place at the same time. My soul was already cursed. She could not trap me here, even if she killed me here. She'd simply be alone, and based on how many victims she collected in the last centuries, she was terrified of being alone. She responded, "I want you to listen to my story." So, she wanted validation and a witness to believe her, as she had shared the horrible ways her life unfolded before she met her end. A person dies a second time when somebody says her name for the last time. Whoever she was, she died so long ago that even my extensive research couldn't unearth her name. Despite how calm I was, I did not have a choice. "I can do that." Then she hissed, "And after, I want to rip out your tongue." What a petty bitch. "I will permit nothing else, but I will permit you my tongue. You must promise to leave this world." She began. Her name was Kanawa. Hours later, exactly as the clocks struck noon of the next day, I emerged from the large building with blood all over my shirt. True to her words, as she was bound, she left after she had finished her life and ripped out my tongue. Contrary to what you might have thought, being the only person in the world who knew her name, her pains, her deepest secrets, and how unfair her life had been, didn't make her more sympathetic towards me. I don't know if I could have negotiated and gotten away with a less damning injury, but she was certainly too powerful for me to remove by force. I texted the landowner to tell him that his building was now free of ghosts, and I threw the list of rules into the trash. I was starting to feel faint from the loss of blood, but I did take emergency medication for the bleeding, and the ambulance was already on its way. And that was the end of my job. Gave me a list of rules to follow. This is my first video, so if you guys honestly have any tips on how to maybe make the audio sound a little better, or just tips for myself as to how I can read more consistently without messing up as much, or I do say a lot of ums. If you guys have any tips on that, I would enjoy if you guys left a comment on how I can get better at just speaking in because I'm not in public, but speaking out in public more. I do hope to continue this, probably make it like a 3 to 4 videos a week type of thing. But I do hope you guys enjoy, and I do hope you guys come back to see what other stories I put over here. Besides that, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.